Did you have survivor's remorse?
In a way, I still have survivor's remorse because I always ask God, I go, why did you have me survive? You know, I didn't do, I mean, a lot of people say, you didn't do crap with your life. You didn't do shit with your life, you know, but I tried. But I always ask, why us? Most of us that survived, like the grown-ups, the men, we were bad. We were drinkers, you know, drug users, and all the good kids, they took all the good kids, they could have become something better. You know, that's one of the things that I think about that. I don't know what the other people feel, but that's how I feel.
What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Alexander
Reece De Leon.
It's a pleasure, Robert. I mean, when I told you who was going to come on, what did you think?
I was shocked, man. I was excited, and I can't wait to get into this. This is crazy.
So, for all y'all are just tuning in, Alexander was one of the survivors from the Alton Bus Crash that happened 30 years ago. And I asked you earlier if you remember it vividly, and you do. You remember everything.
I remember everything. Yeah.
And you're how old now?
I'm 51 years old.
So this happened 30 years ago.
Correct. It'll be 33.
33 years ago. So you were just 18.
18, correct.
And your sister was with you at the same time.
That is correct.
Wow. Okay.
Virginia.
Interesting. When we were diving into this podcast, the Alton Bus Crash, there was so much to it, so much that happened after it. I kind of just want to get your story, your side of it, so you can kind of explain what it was like being in that situation that day. So please share your story.
Yeah. Well, that day in the morning, we're waiting for the bus like we always used to, and what do you call it? It comes. We all get on the bus, and everybody's screaming and yelling, and in the morning, chat what we're gonna do for the day. And as we're going down Bryan Road, we turn on 6 Mile Line to the right, and then come back, do a loop on Stewart Road. As we're coming back on Stewart Road, the very end of 5 Mile Line in Stewart is our last pickup. And that was where my friend Mike and Steve and a lot of people that survived from the bus got on. And as we make that turn to Bryan Road, heading back towards, at the 5 Mile Line, heading back towards Bryan, everything was fine. As soon as we hit that one, right before we hit the light, you could feel the bus kind of skid, almost like skid. But it was so heavy, you know something was happening. And as it skids, you see the Dr. Pepper truck pass the stop sign, and it hit and it rammed the front of the bus, and it's still fishtailed, and it whipped the back of the bus like this straight into the caliche pit. That's when everybody freaked out. Wow. It's like, whoa, and we grabbed on. Everybody grabbed on, and all you hear is screaming, silence, and then when it landed on its nose, you hear screaming again. Everybody's panicking, like, because we didn't know which way the bus was gonna land. We waited like that for like at least, I'm gonna say, about a good 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and the water's coming up, and you see a lot of stuff. You see a lot of commotion. Like, where are we going to go? And all of a sudden, the bus tilts like this to the side. Shoom. And then the water came in. I grabbed my sister, which landed over 2 seats over, to a seat or 2 seats over, grabbed her, put her up the window. And then I came out, and as I was coming out, I could feel people grabbing my foot. And I got up, and I started pulling people out, and I could see people in the windows trying to get up, but the windows were closed. And back then, they had those latches, those clack, 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 before you can open and release the full window. It has a lock. And it goes down in sections. And you got to make sure that you pulled it all the way down and pulled it all the way down so they can come out. And as you can see people coming out, some of them were coming out spewing out foam because of the diesel, and the water was just that black still water. Like, it's a calichero, it's a caliche pit. And,
so they ingested the diesel.
A lot of people did ingest water. They were coming out throwing up, and all you see and smell the difference in the water after it mixed up. And then when we're all up, everybody, well, not all of us, but the most of us that were up after all that commotion, we stand up and we start looking at each other, and we start asking each other, well, where's so-and-so? Where's so-and-so, And so let's go back in the water. And then the guy goes, well, he was a tall guy, one of my friends, and he wanted to get his brother. And we're waiting, we're like, well, who's going to go in? So he goes and he puts his body in to see if anybody will grab his feet. Like this, and come back up, and he goes, let's go in, grab my feet. I'm going to try to open the emergency door. Mm-hmm. And he went, he couldn't even budge it because it's the pressure of the mud. You can't open it. You couldn't open it. He came back up, and his brother never came out. And all I heard was my friend Roque on top saying, Alex, nadala, nadala. And I jumped in the water, and I started to left my sister right there, don't move. I'll be right back. And I swam, and he threw something which I thought it was a rope. It wasn't a rope. It was a manguera, water hose. And he says, amárratela. And me la amarré. And all I felt was him pulling me up, but it wasn't him. When I got up, dude, for real, he wasn't a horse.
So
Everybody says that
Wow.
it's,
This is a
and
guy.
they think that it's not, and it's the honest truth because his son will tell you, Randy Sosa will tell you that Roque saved me, pulling me out with two mangueras. And he'll tell you, yeah, mi papá lo sacó con la potranca. Bah, and everybody freaks out when I tell them that because it's like, whoa, what was he doing? Because he had horses. He lived maybe two, 3 properties down from the Calichero, and we used to break his horses. He used to give us- I'm Brian. He used to give us $30. Que la quebras la potranca, if you can ride it and break her in, you get $30. And now everybody, we were young, nobody had no money. We were living like half poverty, half, so we would all, and we knew each other. And he saw me, dude, like, wow. When he got me up, he goes, quédate, estás bien, y quédate tu hermana. Y boom, I told him, I'm going to go get my mom. And I went, and that's when I ran. And I saw a border patrol
ran
van.
home?
I ran home from there because my mom's house is where the Chaparral is. It's, I'm going to say about good
On
6 blocks.
On Conway?
No, I'm Brian. I'm
Brian.
Brian and Brian and 5 Mile Line. My mom lived like halfway 5 Mile Line, halfway 6 Mile Line.
Órale.
Está el canal. There's a canal. Está La Mesinas Pavilion. On that same side, there's a canal. And you ride the whole canal running.
Órale, okay,
And I
okay.
cut down, and then I seen the Border Patrol, and he couldn't get in because tienes que go around because of the canal. You can't just go over it. So I went and got my mom. She came, and she asked me about my sister, and I told her she was down there. My mom had babies. She had my little younger sisters from my stepdad. And she was freaking out, and it was, I said, "Ma, yeah." And they tell me, were you in the bus? And I was all wet and muddy and all dirty, And the guy, I told the guy, yes. I go, yeah. I mean, excuse me, because it seemed like weird because he asked me. I goes, yeah. I went to go get my mom. He said, well, we need to take you to the hospital. He said, come on. They pulled out a stretcher from the ambulance. They laid me down. I'm telling them there's nothing wrong with me. You still need to get checked out because you could have ingested the water. You don't even know. I said,
So
okay.
at this time, there were still people in the bus.
No, there's people on the bus standing, waiting to get rescued from the people in the fire department that were already jumping in with rafts. All that was already going
So
on.
the
When we
bus
came
was
back,
basically in the middle of the lake, so
In
they,
the middle-
they had to swim to some kind of shoreline.
no, they were told to wait. They were told to wait
yeah.
because if you couldn't swim,
Yeah,
well, you're gonna
throw
drown.
out, yeah.
And a lot of them stood there. They were on the, and those that could swim were going to the edge. But the people that were coming from the Alton Fire Department and the paramedics, somebody threw a raft and then somebody jumped in from the fire department, and they deployed, and then he started getting people and putting them to the side. At the same time, they were bringing a crane to pick up the bus because they were getting in, but they couldn't find anybody. They wanted to pick up the to see,
Papa,
but then there was people that was there said they got brave, and then they started pulling out bodies. They were wearing scuba gear, and they got in and they started pulling bodies before the crane got there because it took a crane about an hour and a half to get there. And so these guys were in there in the water with scuba gear, and they were pulling out the bodies of my friends, and they were putting them in the little small canoes, and they were on the other side where the park entrance is now. There's a park now, and that's where they were laying the bodies on the side. You can see them covered. And it was all in the news all day long, and that's all you saw. In the Mexican news, they showed everything because it's so graphic, and they don't hold back. They will show you, an individual passed away, dead, and they were canoeing them, and then you see the bodies on the side.
Wow.
And that's Azteca. Azteca had
Yeah.
that, and I don't know what other channel. I'm not sure if it was Univision, but they showed everything, all the graphic. And then here they have to edit, they censor it.
Yeah.
But over there, you can see it.
When the Dr. Pepper truck hit you, did you know what was going on?
No, we were all freaking out because it happened so fast. As soon as the bus started skidding, you hear the boom, boom, and you're going in this direction. After when we saw that we were going into the pit, we all knew where we were going because we always hang out there, play hide and go seek.
Yeah, everybody knew that pit, man. You lived around there, you knew it.
It was our hangout place. You go out to around the back, and then you can go hunting with your pellet gun. Get doves and stuff. And there's ducks.
So you all were familiar with that
Everybody's
area.
familiar.
Yeah, everybody, that lake had always been there. That caliche pit had always been there.
It's still there.
Yeah, it's
Matter
still
of fact,
there.
there's a park, and the caliche pit is still there. I mean, they don't use it. They don't dig anymore, but there's still water there.
I've seen some bus accidents on YouTube. You all went straight head down, right?
Yes, head down.
So did everybody fall forward, or were
There
the seats?
there was a few that fell forward. You could feel the once the impact hit, you could hear the thumping.
Wow.
And then, but you don't know who because you're worried about what's gonna happen next. And
You're
I made it.
disoriented, yeah.
I made it. You're like, whoa. And nobody, you don't know that anybody's passed away because it was so sudden, and you feel yourself, nothing happened to you. Maybe nothing happened to anybody else. But then the bus went down like this, and that's where I think the majority wasn't because of the impact. The majority was because everybody's stampeding to get out, and those being left behind, and those that might have flown and hit themselves on an object, on a seat, or somebody else knocked out, and they can't get out.
Wow.
And everybody's doing it for themselves. You have to. You're trying to get out because the water came up so fast, and it was, boom, before you know it, your feet are already wet, and you're not even out of the bus. That was me the first, and boom, boom, and boom, 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 and ya estaba up to your knees. You could walk and you could see the windows, but you were up to your shins, your knees, in water, and you could see the people on the windows. And we're trying to, I think, some of them still coming out.
So you could see the people still in the window from where you were standing outside?
We tried to get everybody we could. Everybody got involved. And then we tried to get all the windows open. Some of them were not, but the majority of the windows we tried to open them, we did. And people came out. And one came out, and then another one came out, and that was it. After that, we didn't see nobody else come out, and then everybody got in panic mode.
So just two.
Mi hermana, that's all you heard.
Holy
was freaking out. My sister, and help me get my brother and get my sister, and then you're arguing. You say, "Come on, dude, help me, dude." I'm like, "No, I gotta go over this." And so that's when Roca told me. I jumped. I didn't hear, everything was blocked off. He just said,
Well, that was the first adult on the scene, me imagino, ¿no?
Sí, yo y otro, me and another guy, eran los más grandes de la escuela that we had failed our previous year, and we still had to graduate. You know, I was lacking like 2 or 3 credits for my diploma.
The age range of the kids that were on there from what age to what age?
From 13 through 18, I was the oldest. So funny that from junior high school, 13, 8th grade, 14, 8th grade, 9th grade, and it was back then it was 7th and 8th. On Mission Junior High, that was a category. It was 7th, 8th, and then 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th high school. And 7th and 8th was a junior high.
And you said that
before they converted them to middle school.
Yeah, that year was the first year that they actually put both classes together.
Both schools together, because they used to do 2 routes. The year before that, in '88, they would pick us up. They would pick up the junior high students first, and then they give us like a 15-minute leeway, and the bus for us would come at 7:45, and we would go and it was all high school students. There wasn't 2 routes. It was just one. I mean, there was 2 routes.
So they commingled all the ages.
They consolidated the routes to save money, which is true, because this bus was only coming from Conway. It would hit Conway 5 Mile Line, pick up the students on that side, come back, turn on Bryan, pick up all the students on both sides of that neighborhood, all the way around 6 Mile Line, maybe pick a few, Stewart, and then that was the route. And then wouldn't fill up the bus. Mm-hmm. So once they congested it with both junior high and high school students, then the bus estaba lleno, and then it was over capacity. And I got kicked out of school for saying that on TV. Mr. Zapata emptied out my locker. He emptied out my locker. I came back, I think it was 3 days after the bus accident, and I wanted to go back in school. He says, I checked you out from school. When we talked in the office, and I already knew why, boom, boom, he goes, so you got to pick a school that you're going to go to, and then we'll transfer your papers.
So they pushed you out of the school?
Yeah, they pushed me out of school because me and him, we never really got along. I was always a bad kid, I was skipping school and stuff like that, and get on his nerves. And that year, he had enough. He didn't like what I said about the school, that the bus was full of students, and it might have been the school's fault. Well, the school didn't have to take responsibility because Coca-Cola picked up the full responsibility, put up the full tab.
Wow.
And that excluded the school from being negligent because the bus was over capacity. So you couldn't sue the school. Once Coca-Cola took up, you couldn't sue the school. Plus, they were giving out scholarships. Coca-Cola was giving out scholarships to people that survived from the bus. You can go to college and they would pay for it. Yeah.
Wow.
I think there was a few people that took advantage of that. I never heard of anybody that actually, went to school, graduated, and got that scholarship from them. But that's what they were offering.
Can you explain to me what life was like back 33 years ago in the area that you lived in?
Dirt roads, man. It was dirt roads. A lot of people that were coming in from Mexico, they were migrating this way, were building up their houses there in Alton. Alton was small, real small. We had houses that were on blocks, and we had outhouses in the back.
Wow.
I have a lot of my friends that had outhouses back in the back in 89, 88.
¿Tú te acuerdas del burger bar que estaba ahí por la Conway?
Sí. And the burger bar. It's where the Chapas Chicharrones used to be.
That's right,
right. And now it's a pawn shop. But estaba Chapas y estaba el burger bar.
I used to ride my horse all the way there to go
Amco
eat.
Insurance.
That's right.
Now it's Amco Insurance, yeah.
Yeah, man. Back then it was literally a barn.
It was a barn, and it was a burger joint.
And it was a burger joint, and it still had outside, instead of car stops, it had the rails so you can go and tie your horse to it, man. I mean, la gente era humilde, bro.
Yeah, it was nice.
Yeah,
and that's when
we'd go and we'd
Chapas had their chicharrón.
Yep.
Factory there.
So the Alton at that time was a very humble community.
Humble.
You knew everybody.
It was actually more country than it is now. Now it's really like metropolitan. We have McDonald's.
We just got the McDonald's a few years ago.
Juniors.
Remember, this is one of the last cities to evolve.
And it's got stars. There's everything there. They even have a golden chick, Alton. I'm like, wow, that thing's expensive.
Wow.
Who can afford that? No.
So Alton was just a little
town.
small one
and
horse
the
town.
slogan was "City on the Grow." That's what it says in the Tinaco del Agua.
City on the
City
grow.
on the Grow.
Well, they've been growing really slow,
That was.
but they're growing. Yeah.
It's growing. It's and it's a real still peaceful town. I haven't heard any big stories of any violence or anything. But for every once in a while, you hear Palm View, Alton area. But
Do you remember seeing the faces of the kids that were in the bus when you were leaving it, when you got out?
I remember seeing my sister, telling her to stay there. I seen Steve coming out, throwing up. Mike, he was on the corner too, on the top of the bus. He was there standing. I said I'd be back because when the man started screaming my name for me to swim, I blocked everything off and I just told myself, "Don't move from here. I'm gonna go get mom," and that was it.
Wow.
And I jumped. You could smell the diesel. So I didn't get on the edge. It was like maybe like 10, 15 feet away from the bus. And I jumped, try to get out of the water. I was freaking out because there were snakes or whatever. I don't know. It was real black.
Yeah, the
Huele bien
water is muddy and
Es
nasty.
que it had that stench from when it's still
It's
for
stagnant.
so long.
It's agua estanjada.
Agua, yes,
Yes,
and-
agua estancada.
and-
It's like
and,
that black, nasty
Black,
mud.
nasty
Smells
water.
like
Then
sewer.
and it was mixed with diesel.
Yeah.
And you didn't want to drink that. You didn't want, I didn't want to. I was like, boom, got out, tied that up on me. And he said, "Tamarrao." And I kept pulling and I go, "I think it's going to pop, dude." And then he just pulled me up and I got up. He grabbed me. Boom. Boom. But he was on a horse, dude, and jumped down. He was
That's
a rope.
crazy,
Boom.
Yeah, Robert had told me about a
I
story.
said, "Hey, vato, I was all freaked out, but I was a kid, man. I wasn't expecting that, I was like, but I remember it, boom. Because he couldn't pull me up.
Yeah.
That man was old. He was in his 60s.
Wow.
He was, ya estaba señorón, estaba
Ya estaba veterano.
He was a veterano, man. That was the guy that we would break in his horses. We would feed his chickens, go out there, mess around with all his wildlife. He had a lot of wildlife.
Right there on Brand Road, just
Right, as soon as you turn into the Mesinas,
yeah.
to the left side.
Yeah,
Ahora
yeah.
está un castillo.
Sí, sí, sí,
Ahí
sí.
enseguida el castillo de los traileros, ahí mero. Y we used to go to bed. He had peacocks, man. He had a lot of wildlife.
Wow.
And everybody,
Were you the only person he pulled up with the hose, or did he?
That was not that I know of. After that, I don't know if he pulled out anybody else.
okay.
Because I left, came back, he was already gone. There was no
Gotcha.
horse. He wasn't there anymore. And there was a lot of ambulances, a lot of personnel from EMS, fire engines, and then all I heard was people ushering people. Were you on the bus? Were you on the bus? Come on! And we had stretchers ready to put them in ambulances and take them to the hospital.
To go take him to the hospital.
You had to get checked out. No matter what, if you were on the bus, they didn't let you go. You couldn't go just home. And that's what I wanted, but they wouldn't let me. Yes, you need to go, and over there they're going to check your inside, your lungs, make sure you didn't drink any of the fluid, and then they'll let you go. They'll release you. So,
Wow. So shortly after that, after everything happened, 3 days after that, you got kicked out of school.
yeah, 3 days after I went to try to go back to school, after after all the interviews that were on television, I did some interviews, and then I really didn't want to go back to school. We were debating what to do because I was already old. I was already going to be 19. I was 18. I was going to turn 18. No, I was going to be 19 in October. This happened in September.
Yeah.
My birthday is October. I was going to be 19. I was already too old to be in school
Wow.
to begin with, but you're only allowed to be in school till you're 18. And so me and him were arguing, and we're debating. You never finished school. You've already been here 5 years, he said. I don't think school's for you. He said, so we're going to just check you out, and I'm not too happy with what you said, and we just bickering back and forth. And I said, well, you know what? Just give me my paperwork, and I'll just find me a school I can go to. And I ended up staying with my friend in San Juan, and ended up going to PSJ that year.
So the few months that happened after that, what were those months like?
The months after?
Yeah.
It was a lot of rush of lawyers and a lot of chaos of who was the best lawyer to get for, because they were saying that everybody was going to get money. That was a big thing. Everybody was poor, and all you heard was that they're going to give you money. They started settling. Coca-Cola was already sending lawyers to houses offering settlement checks.
How long after?
About a month, 2 months after.
Wow.
They already knew that they were negligent because it took about maybe 6 months. They kind of felt, or they already knew that the brakes on the truck were faulty, because they said the lines had gotten water and he couldn't brake. But DPS hadn't still confirmed that because it took about 6 months for the investigation.
Wow.
For DPS to confirm it. But Coca-Cola, knowing, I guess maybe they knew, or they had their mechanics check it out and figured out, okay, you know what, we're going to lose this. Let's go send these guys out and offer.
So they just send out somebody with checkbook and started.
No,
right?
just lawyers. They sent there was, I think it was 3 lawyers that were representing Coca-Cola that were sent out, not those actual lawyers from the office, but their little associates. So go knock on the door and see if these guys will want to settle for this. If they want to call us, boom, they're willing to settle with you guys.
Do you know if any of the people did up front real quick, or did everybody go?
My friend Raul Ortega, his dad, they settled for $1 million. This was within the first 2 months. They were the first people to settle. And then after they settled, not 2 months longer, the Silvas, they lost 2 sons. And the father was a DPS trooper.
Holy shit.
They settled for $12 million.
Wow.
For 2. The Ortegas wanted to go back and take their lawyer and I guess we would call it renege on the contract.
Yeah.
And try to get more money for the death, but it was impossible because you've already signed the contract.
signed the contract.
See, me too. I couldn't take nothing back. I couldn't say, and I thank Ramon and his brother. They did a lot for me. They gave me an advance. They got me an apartment. They did a lot. I was a kid, and I didn't have any money. And they hooked it up. I'm no bullshit. We're not gonna sugarcoat it. They did help me, but they charge you 40%.
Yeah.
But that's the perks for them giving you the advance because no other lawyer would have done it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was already getting kicked out by my stepfather from home.
So you had no other choice.
No acabas de la escuela. I had no choice. I was
Yeah.
like me. That's what I felt like. I didn't have a choice, which I did. My mom was telling me, come with our lawyer. Stick around. Go, yeah, me and my stepdad, we really don't get along anymore, Mom. And I want to take off. I want to hit the road. And we made the agreement, went to his house, had a barbecue, celebrated, because he said, hey, man, you're going to win a lot of money. I said, yeah, man, sign. Boom, bam, 10 grand cash in an envelope. Wow, and gave me a Toyota from his brother's bail bonds place that was here on 281. Un Toyota Corolla in 82. Ese y un apartamento for 6 months. And then he goes, tomorrow, Ramon's wife's going to take you to the bank, and she's going to open you an account for 20 grand. Don't spend it all, dude. Make it last at least for the year before we settle so we can get at least $500,000 to $1 million. And I said, okay, really? $500,000? I was like, man, that's a lot of cash, I was a kid, man, walking around with 10 grand in your pocket, and it almost dilutes your brain and makes you think that you're invincible with that much money at such a young age. You think that you've conquered the world, which really it's not. It's just you got to be really careful how you spend that money, how to use it. And I was young and dumb, and
So
drugs,
some
alcohol,
kids or some families negotiated a lot more.
Oh yeah, after the Silvas, it was the negotiation with $5 million for the death or above. There was no more $1 million, $2 million. There was none of them. You look in the back of the history of that, and all the settlements after that historic $12 million from the Silvas, everybody else was selling. The death for each individual was $5 million and up.
Wow.
And the Ortega still to this day, I'm not sure, man, the man, but I know that my friend Raul, they said, man, they got over on him.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm thinking maybe they did. You never know. The lawyer got a big bonus on a sidekick from Coca-Cola. Here, man, you get him to sign for $1 million. We'll give you this $500,000 check.
Mm-hmm.
How many kids passed away?
Yeah.
21.
21 kids.
21 kids.
Yeah, there was 19 that passed away that day, and 2 passed away in the hospital several days later from drinking that water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
The diesel.
From the diesel and that water that had been...
That water is just full of amoebas and
pneumonia,
nasty stuff,
and
man,
all these
algae.
kind of complications because of all that stuff that's in that water. And plus being taken out of the water late. And they revive you. So you're like...
After 5 minutes,
your brain dead.
Your brain
yeah,
dead.
So I'm thinking that's what... but then you... With faith, everybody has a hope that, and a lot of people do sometimes. You've been in coma for years, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, where am I? And people lose hope, and some of them pull the plug, and not knowing that you could probably survive. But these people, they passed away in the hospital, and, respect to their parents and respect, to them, to their death. But
the families that of the children that passed away, did they all stay in the area?
No, there's only a few. The Flores still live on 4 Mile Line. The Ortegas still live on 4 Mile Line. Mike's family lives on Stewart. My mom still lives in the same house. Everybody from Stewart Road, from the bus accident, no, not that I know of. Not that there was maybe
Did you
like 2
know any
families.
of the Cruces?
Yeah, I know Cruz, Efraín.
Bueno, papá de él, José Cruz, esos
José y Roy.
peleábamos, ándale, peleábamos gallos.
Roy, eran mis vecinos de atrás, cuando se murió Efraín con Joe.
Ajá.
Yo estaba ahí en el valle todavía, I was still there, my mom's house too. Estaba todos We had just gotten the settlement. Yeah, yo estaba en la parte, estaba en la silla de mi casa. Pero estos estaban partying and we used to go party.
On the 3 mile line.
Right,
Donde compró el ranchito.
Sí, pero estos se arrancaron de ahí de la casa de Cruz, del papá. Cuando se fueron Efraín y José esa noche con el guy who was in the backseat, I don't know the guy in the backseat, but I know Joe and Efraín. When they left that day and they got killed on inspiration. Because they were drinking at 4 in the morning, pues andamos paseándolos, andamos, en otro jale. Y estos se fueron. Yo fui y yo también yo fui a agarrar rumbo. We didn't hear that. I didn't hear about that till 2 days later. Hey, did you hear about it? I said, oh, what?
And they had lost a sister or somebody in the bus.
Yeah, the sister.
The sister.
The little sister.
The family I tell you that
and
lost a little girl, and then they wound up crashing.
Like,
what was life?
What
was life like after like everybody got their money?
Oh man, you're living it up, man. I mean, I'm sure that everybody that got money, they're living it up because we didn't have nothing. We were living in caliche roads, outhouses. Some of us some of them were middle class. Some of them were coming up, the colonia, and Calichero.
Pimentera and
and you're walking outside to go use the bathroom. These people came up, and it's sad because a lot of them don't have the money no more, like myself. I got married, got divorced, and then everything went. You go from rags to riches, back to rags, and then survival. And you figure it out. You figure out who your real friends are. You figure out about life. You learn about investments. You learn about survival in life. How to make decisions a little more clear, a little more mature. When you're a kid and they give you all this money, trust me, it's going to change your mind. You're going to do something either good with it or bad with it, but you got to make that choice. And when you're young, you make dumb choices.
What was it for you that made the click in your head that, all right, I did wrong for that?
Well, for me to change from bad to now after the money was being drug addicted and living under a bridge in Austin, Texas.
So after the accident, you got your money, you took off?
No, I lived here in the Valley.
You lived here in the Valley.
Yeah,
so then
I had 2 kids. Everything was going good. And then the money ran out within 7 years.
Wow.
And then I started working again, and then we were talking about divorce. And then in my head, I'm thinking she's going to keep everything from me. So we sold the house. She kept the car, we split the money, and then we got divorced.
Wow.
And then she went her way, she got remarried. I went my way. I'll never get married again. And went to Austin, back and forth. I went to California, went to Chicago, and nothing ever came to fruition. I was a bad alcoholic, always thinking about the past. Stuck on that accident, stuck about what could have happened, what would I have done changed, why would I get married if it wasn't going to work out? Just things that I couldn't control, things that had already happened. And
did you have survivor's remorse?
In a way, I still have survivor's remorse because I always ask God, I go, why did you have me survive? I didn't do, a lot of people say, you didn't do crap with your life, you didn't do shit with your life, but I tried. But I always ask, why us? Most of us that survived, like the grown-ups, the men, we were bad. We were drinkers, drug users, and all the good kids, they took all the good kids, they could have become something better. That's one of the things that I think about that. I don't know what the other people feel, but that's how I feel,
And then you also said that you became homeless for a while.
Yeah, man. I was homeless for like 4 years.
Wow.
4 years straight. And I was in Texas, man. Went to prison, came out, was on the streets, got on drugs, got real bad on drugs.
What age were you at that time?
It's 2013. 33.
Wow.
Will I be 33? In 2013, I'll be 33.
Wow.
Yeah. 33. I'm going to say 33. Yeah, 33 or 43.
10 years ago.
10 years ago.
That would be 43.
43.
That would be 43.
Yeah.
I was at 42 years old when I came out of prison. 42, 43. I learned my lesson. Learn. Well, I was homeless, but I'm figuring it out, and I'm under the bridge. And after that little phase, at 46, I stopped.
Wow.
I had to flip it. And then sure, every once in a while you get a relapse, but you gotta, or you'll get offered a relapse. It's not really. But it's your mind. It's all this stuff about addiction and mind games and going to therapy and stuff like that. I don't think it's really necessary. It's just a trigger within your brain that has to say yes or no. You have to have self-control. You gotta have that will, man. You always gotta think that, okay, if I do it, I already know what's gonna happen. And if I don't do it, I got a better chance of something better happening. And that's how you look at it. This is me. Analyze. Now it's more analyzing. Oh, sí, te van a dar un pase, vato, gratis. Sí, pero eso qué va a hacer, que eso me abre la puerta para yo gastar mi dinero para hacer más y hacer la movida de esa que I'm gonna go and it's gonna be rock bottom again. And you know how many times you have to hit rock bottom to figure out that there's light on the other side.
Yeah.
You know, why are you gonna keep bumping your head? You know, dude, there's got to be. And then my mom, I don't want her suffering. Where, oh, what happened to Alex? Ya se murió bajo el puente. Drogas, you know, hell no.
Yeah. I know when
badass.
Robert and I had
Thank you.
the conversation about the Queen Isabella Causeway collapse, he had suffered a lot of PTSD.
Yeah, it does.
Are you suffering from PTSD right now?
I
or-
don't say I suffer from it. I mean, I say that I mean, it's there. You get those moments. You get those moments, but I don't.
Pero después de 33 años, man, you're talking.
Yeah.
I tell Josh too, man. Now I don't suffer from it, but
Yeah.
back then
Back
I
then, yeah.
had to distract myself from
Yeah,
it.
and then I
And
had.
then when you give people money,
Yeah.
then they use the money as therapy. Y
Yeah.
por eso no les rinde. Por eso
Yeah.
no, because el dinero nunca le va a dar abasto al dolor. You know, the money's
Yeah,
never going
it's
to fill
gonna
that
satisfy-
void.
it's
It's
gonna
never going to
satisfy-
satisfy.
satisfy. No, it won't.
But you get the sense that it will because everybody tells you here, because of that, we're giving you this.
Yeah.
And that makes our mind think that everything's supposed to be okay now.
Right. Right.
So you go to spending.
Here,
you
this
go
will make
to-
it better.
Yeah, here, this will make it
and
better.
then when you're young, it does.
And yeah, and
It does. And
the
after
truth
when,
is,
it's not.
it's here. This will distract you. But it's not gonna make it better.
It's a distraction. That
It's
is
like
it.
it's like when your baby's crying at the restaurant. You're like, "Chingao, what I do? Then dale esto." Boom, and then the baby has it. They're distracted.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a knife you handed them. You know, y se van a lastimar. Well, that's what that money was to a lot of these people,
Yes.
man. It was a loaded gun to an infant just to distract them. Now, if the infant gets lucky and the gun never goes off, y le sirve que bueno. But if chances are that infant's going to hurt himself, and that's what the money does to people
When you're young.
When you're young,
You're
man.
young. It does.
They didn't give us anywhere near that. I wound up walking away with $35,000 after the bridge collapse. Era todo.
Wow.
And I still thought again, chinga, yo ya la hice, bro. Yeah, I got 35
Yeah,
grand.
35 grand,
You know,
yeah.
this is what a teacher's making back then in a whole year. Yo ya los tengo. You know, and your mind just goes numb, and you start spending or
What am I going to do with all this money?
yeah, you know, or you start paying your bills and catching up and doing all these things, and then all of a sudden, you've paid all your bills, you got your car, you got your house, and then when you sit down to relax, you're still alone with your thoughts about what happened, and that's when you start saying, "Well, shit, I better start going on this trip or buying this or do this to distract
You're
myself."
just putting more band-aids
Yeah.
on top of
Yeah, man. So I can sympathize and relate on a small scale to what money does to people suffering from post-traumatic stress syndromes, and it's evident, man. I
Yeah,
mean, to see it.
yeah, it does, man. It does. And
Do you feel that there could have been a different way that they could have approached this, like back then, instead of
Like-
just giving you all this cash up front, like here, boom, bye.
there could have been a different way, but their motive was they wanted to settle as fast as they could before they went to before or anybody would opt for court litigation because they know it's lost. Because once you settle a wrongful lawsuit and you pay the first client, you have to pay all the clients. It's a class action lawsuit. So that means that you've already admitted
Accepted
guilt.
fault, yeah.
You accepted your fault. Now it's up to these guys to see if they're smart enough, and will they fall for it when I send these
Checks or these offers.
these shyster lawyers, ambulance chaser, to go knock on your door and see if you accept this money, the first offer that we give you. And if they do, this guy might get a bonus. And you sign, okay, sign here, boom, boom, boom. You waive the right to go to trial. You can't sue again.
So at age 18, you were completely reliable by
Blindsided.
yourself.
I was by myself. I was blindsided, but then really blindsided. But then the offer was really too good to pass up.
What was that conversation like when they approached you?
It was my cousin that approached me because Ramon and Felipe, their families were where my cousin worked with over at the Y in San Carlos. And there's a Y, Los Maldonados. And they're all family. We're all family, second cousins and cousins. So they sent him to me and we talked. And he said, "Come on, man, get in the truck." Well, I got in the truck and it's Felipe driving. It was a Suburban. And they took me riding around and said, "Hey, man, boom, boom, you're going to get a lot of money. We need you to sign with us, man, and we'll give you an advance." And so, how much? He said, "Well, we're going to have a barbecue at my house. we'll come pick you up and we'll go to the house, you know, and we'll discuss it there. I said, okay, fine. Boom. So we go to his house. We're having a barbecue, and they had the contract. And they're still telling me, you know, boom, 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 boom. You know, and right now, if you sign, because you're only allowed to carry $10,000 in your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
I said, I didn't know nothing about that.
Yeah.
You know, I never had that kind of money. Well, he showed me a brown envelope with 10 grand. 10,000, you know, the little seal, with the yellow seal, $10,000, put hundreds. I said, yeah, it's real. I said, yeah, it's real. Boom, boom, you know, it's kind of flashy, gordito el señor, buena onda. And he said, yeah, I can give you this, sign now, and I promise you that within this week, we'll get you another bank account open, we'll get you an apartment, and I'll get you a car.
So it's like a little dingling hook.
It's a hook, line, and sinker, man. It's a hook. I mean, I'm 18.
Yeah.
I mean, they're putting 10 grand in your, literally in your face. Here, man, sign here, 40%, and we're gonna get $500,000 to $1 million, and we'll get you another bank account open. An apartment. I can't. Me and my stepdad are getting along. I mean, they already want me to go.
Te cayó de maravilla.
Yeah. It was like a lifesaver, man. I said, you know what? We'll go for it. I signed. I took the 10 grand, put it in my pocket, and took off that night. Went to the house. Then I was talking to my mother and told my mother, and showed my mom some feria. Gave her some feria, and she was, well, good luck, Alex. Boom, boom, boom. I said, yeah. So then the following day, I went to the mom dropped me off at their office, and Sandra, Ramon's wife, Sandra Garcia, she took me to the bank. She had a little Mercedes Benz, a little small one, convertible Chiquito with 2 seats, a little sharp. And she took me to the bank and opened up the 20 grand account. And I still have money in my pocket. And they always told me, don't spend it on, and don't use too much drugs, because they knew I was on powder. And it was telling me, hey man, you need to slow down. I was always all, you know, super hyper. You know, I still got I feel like I got side effects of it. You know what I mean? Of using too much of a stimulant. Yeah. You know, and
if you don't mind,
Yes,
you don't have to answer. How much did you get from the actual
$280,000?
Wow.
You go 500,000 minus 40%, minus $20,000 advance, minus $10,000 advance, and medical bills, because I was responsible for that, and I didn't know that.
Wow.
So the medical bills were fed on me, so I had to pay like $13,000 because there was nothing wrong with me. It was checkup, and the shrink to evaluate me to see if there was anything going wrong with my head, if I messed up anything in my head, to see if they could find a way to say that something was messed up with me
to ask for
more money.
Wow.
That's all it was. It's just a little ploy. It's the system within the system. And that's how it operates within that system.
It still operates like that today.
You figure it out. When you get older, like me, I figured it out. I said, okay, I know. And I look and I read and I research and I say, okay, that's how it is.
Wow.
And that's how it works today too. Hey, mándalo para el doctor y que agarre, you know, check and make sure, and, you know, and then plus some of them, you know, they work together. Nothing's wrong with you. Nothing's wrong with you, but they say there is, and that's you know, that's an open door.
Wow.
For at least to ask for a settlement. You know.
So a lot of the people that you're with were very close friends. Do you still keep in contact with them today?
Not really. Not really. From school, from the bus accident, I keep in contact with Sergio, one of my high school friends. That's about the only one. Everybody else moved. Everybody's married.
What about your sister? How's she?
My sister, she works here. She
still here in the valley?
Yeah, she works at the courthouse.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she does her thing at the courthouse.
Does she remember that day?
Yeah, but she really doesn't like talking about it.
I can imagine. Yeah.
You know, she went through her stuff too. She's telling me, and with respect to her, you know, she's been through her thing, and whatever happened with that, with her stuff and whatever.
Es cosa de
ella.
Yeah,
Por respeto, because she's got a good job right now.
Yeah.
She's doing good, and she's coming up.
Well, I appreciate you coming on the podcast and being so honest with us. I mean,
any other questions that you would like to ask?
No, we're not done.
Yeah, I mean, ask away, shoot away, man.
No, I know that it's sometimes it's a touchy subject. Like when we were trying to interview some people with the Queen Isabella Causeway collapse, it's a very fine line that you have to walk by getting into their lives, because it does trigger memories.
It does. I mean, yeah, and plus, a lot of people, they grieve differently. A lot of people don't like to express themselves. Me, I like making music. I like to write. I like to be up on stage. I like to, and I like talking. I like to, you know, keep their memory alive. You know, it's the kids, man. You know, they were the future. They still are. You know, the ones that we have now, the children. But there's so much stuff going on right now in the world with all this technology that it's hard to keep tabs on them.
Yeah, I think the goal of what Robert and I are trying to do is to find Rio Grande Valley stories and to tell the truest version of the story. I think when it starts to get muddied with other things,
right,
if it's not talking to people that were actually in
it, then they have in true to form with the book, with the Alton, Texas Bus Crash book. That's a lot of just partial researches of other people telling you things that happened that weren't really involved in a bus accident, only but legally, but that were involved inside the bus. There was hardly anybody in there. And that book, and I gave him a lot of stories. And me and not Mr. Carmona, respect to him because he was really cool. He told me what he was going to do. But with JZJ, we had a contract. And, you know, when you have a contract, you have this protocol. You know, if you say that I'm going to have my song on the end of the documentary, but you take me off and you put somebody else's song, yet the video's up for grabs and I grab it and I take it, you can't say I stole your video. You didn't keep up with your end of the contract. You know, and if I had the money to sue you, what would be the point? But just the simple fact that you didn't put my song on there, I took it. The guy did a good job.
Yeah.
Right? Thanks to Future One out there in McAllen. You hearing? Thank you for the track. You got down by all means. But the contract was said that I was supposed to have my song on there, which we did in the studio over there with our RGV Mixmasters.
Okay.
I forgot the gentleman's name. We did everything was done there, and but that was it. And after that, well, we ended up miscommunicating, not communicating, and they released the book. And they did what they had to. And much props to them, but I haven't read it. I've read a little bit of the inserts, but I haven't read the whole actual book. And I was like, well, it's mostly about theoretical research and people that were in the legality part of the bus accident. There's hardly anybody that was actually involved in that bus accident that was actually telling the story. I did, my mom did, but you have to put when you purchase the book, I guess you have to do the scan code, and then you get that story. You get the what do you call
documentary.
it? Documentary.
Wow.
But I got mine on my channel, on my YouTube, and you know.
What is it? What? How do you find
Rap Magic? What?
Rap Magic?
Rap Magic De Leon, yeah. Rap Magic De Leon. That's how I do my music. If you're anybody out there watching, Rap Magic De Leon, just Google it, and you'll see all the platforms I'm in. I'm on 19 platforms musically.
Nice. And you also have the documentary on there.
Yes,
as
I do.
well.
On my
Yeah.
YouTube. Correct. My documentary for the Alton, Texas bus accident. And we use a drone. We go down there. We do actual site-to-site footage of how it actually happened. And it's basically a walkthrough of that day.
Of those events.
You have those boom, 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 boom. And then the drone flies and we start talking about and what happened at the very end. And I'm telling you, they did a good job. Andy Zavala, thank you. You know,
Way to go. Nice.
you know, JCJ Films, everybody in the Valley that helped me. Those of you that kept it positive. You know, there was a lot of negativity with the rap and everything else. It was pointless. And at the very end, you'll see that it's not. It's about unity. It's about, you know, it's about respect. It's about changing your life. You know, even me, man, at old age, you know, I feel the numbers, but I don't feel that old age. But even at that, when you're older, you have to find ways to escape the hate. Find ways to make things a little bit better for yourself, to prove to other people that it can be done in a positive way, not just negative, because there's so much negativity in this world.
Yeah.
Technology makes it so easy for people to hate, post things,
Have an opinion about everything.
and when necessarily it's not, you know, and it's just unnecessary things that are said, talked about, done to other people and harm when you could do good for people. Do good for other people, do good for others. And cool, you know, I'm 51 years old, you know, trying to keep everything good and positive.
One of the survivors from the Alton bus accident 33 years ago.
Yep.
That's crazy. Man.
Alexander.
Yes, sir.
Wow, man, you have an incredible story. I'll never look at a garden hose the same, man. It's like basically that's the
trust me.
weirdest
And
thing.
then I always have this thing where I test them. Like,
Wow.
put my foot and I'll pull. I'll go, let me see this thing's really. And some of them are. You get the ones from Home Depot. They got that they look like the gardener snake.
Yeah, se
So
rompe.
those things, no. Esas
Oh,
son,
so tan buenas.
those are tough. They have an inner lining, some kind of a mesh that thing is. You pull it and it's so tough. I wonder if that's what he used. And that always makes me wonder today. You mentioned that.
That's amazing, man. I grew up hearing that he was lassoing the kids. And I always remember thinking, pues nosotros con caballos, we always también da lasso, because it would have hurted somebody.
I wasn't there after when he did me. I wasn't there to see the rest of the stuff that he might have done.
Yeah.
Everything was so chaotic. There was so many cars, lights. Hombre.
Wow.
Y vente pa acá, you over here, and it was just.
Did you talk to him after?
After
Yeah.
I
What was that
got my
conversation
money,
like?
I gave him $5,000. That old man, I gave that old man $5,000.
Nice.
On the cool because of us.
Yeah.
With the stuff that we used to do on our terms, and the way I met the man, the way the rules that we had, the way that he taught me.
What was the conversation like after?
Vato era firme.
Yeah, man.
Vato me guió cuando estaba chavalo, cómo hacer feria, cómo hacer esto y pum, pum, pum. Y eso se queda en mi corazón, Roque. Tú sabes, pum, que Dios me lo cuide, man.
Es que you know ranchitos, bro. Back then, any little ranchito that you had, that you hung out with, you left with some kind of wisdom, bro.
And they would let me stay at their house. His wife would feed us and Randy, and then we'd go out there and play football and get on the horses, man, ride the horses and break it. Quebra la potranca. And some of them were tough, some of them were not, you know. And once you get it around the circle and then back the other way, and you can guide it, then he'll let you loose. And that's when you got to be careful because that's when it's gonna start bucking. And once it drops you off the saddle, you got to get back on. You'll tie it up again and then get back on and let it go again. You got to slowly pull the reins and guide it. Just hold on to it firmly. And they slowly get it. Just don't kick them. I try not to kick them. And when you're pulling the reins, that pisses them off and you just start jumping. Yeah, because you're giving them pain in their mouth, and then you're kicking
them, asking them to run at the same time.
So I think that's why a lot of people, that's how they do that rodeo. No, that's why, because you kick it and you're pulling on the rein, you're actually hurting the animal. You know, not purposely, but you're trying to get it to tame it, and I guess it works.
So you guys spent a lot of time at the rancho.
Yeah, man. It was a calichero, the back calichero, and the whole thing was wide open. He had an open field in the back. It was fun, man. It was fun when we were kids. We learned a lot.
That conversation you had with him after the fact that he saved you, what was that conversation like?
It was about what to do with my money. He was always telling me, go to California. Now you could do your raps.
So he had already knew your character.
Yeah.
So he was watching out for you the whole time.
He was, man. He was, yeah. He said, now you can go do your music up there in California. Go to California. That was famoso. And I didn't want to go. We already had money. I said, well, ya tengo la feria. ¿Ya para qué me quiero ir? Ya los van allá. Ya tenemos, they gave us money. Okay, ya tenemos money. ¿Para qué me voy a andar yendo para California?
That's that false sense of security, man, that money brings. You think $280,000, it's going to last
you. It's going to last you forever.
And it doesn't even last you.
7 years, bro.
Wow.
No lie, 7 years. I bought a house, bought 2 cars, crashed my car, fixed it, crashed my car, fixed it. Gave money to friends, partied, drugs. Big downfall was drugs. Lord forgive me, but I'm honest. It was drugs. Cocaine was the drug. You know, it was a rich man's drug. And still today, it's a rich man's drug. I mean, I highly recommend people not use it. If they offer it to you, don't take it. It'll ruin your life. You'll lose a lot of money. And you'll not be happy. You'll not be happy. You got to struggle again just to make ends meet.
To get your next fix.
Try to get your life back in the next phase again. Start all over again. It's not the right way to go.
From the past 33 years that you've had this with you, what are your thoughts now? Like, what do you think about?
I think about a sense of accomplishment. What do I do to feel that I've accomplished something? So I make my music and I try, and sometimes it's like to no avail. But my mom, I do it for my mom. More than anything, my mom, that way she can see that I did my music, I did my poems, I wrote a book, I did what I could, you know, as far as what do you call it? Not going to college, now, you know, almost like the black sheep of the family, the dropout. Well, the sense of the guy that the people always call the loser, not to be that guy. To say, hey, you know what? I was this guy before, but look at all the things that I did after. You know, some people might see it, some people might not, but all I have to prove it is to God and to my mother. You know, everything else is just superficial.
Yeah.
You know, God first more than anything, because the God's the only one that's going to save your soul, whether you believe in that or not. I do. I firmly believe that. Yeah. You know, I don't know what hell is. You know, I don't know what heaven is, but I know there's 2 ways to go: the good and the bad. And so.
What does your mother have to say about everything?
Oh, my mom's happy, man. She's not really happy about my drug addictions back in the day, or me being homeless under the bridge. She worried a lot. She worried day and night, call me and you know, worried, ¿Dónde estás dormido? But now that she sees me doing a little bit better and getting myself organized, even though it's at an older age, I'm still allowed to do it, and she's still allowed to see it. So it means something.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Pinche alcohólico, el pinche drogadicto. But I always posting my work on my Facebook page, and she sees it, and I'll send her a picture, and she'll be like, yeah, you know. So.
And you talk about making honest money.
Honest money. Yeah, it's honest money, man. Yeah. You know, you're not out there robbing people. You're not out there jacking people. You're not out there stealing and pawning it. You're not out there doing people dirty, man. You know, you're not doing bad things to earn money. You know, I go and I get on the internet, make my sales. I go to their house, make an appointment, go to their house, paint the logo, and and go on from there.
For a lot of you that don't know, Alexander does the
Address numbers.
Address numbers. So if you need anybody, hit us up.
Yeah, hit us
Yeah,
up.
put
We'll
the
get
Dallas
you-
Cowboys on the bottom of mailboxes, flags.
What if they like the Texans?
They
You
are.
don't
I
do
do.
it? Not Texans.
No, everything Texas I have. Everything Texas, all the other logos that they ask for, I have to go to the computer, then download copies and cut the stencil.
And cut the
And then
stencil.
make it just like the picture. And
Yeah.
that's when you freak them out, like, wow, why did you do that? Well, I make copies and cut them, sit in the
That's
library,
awesome, man.
and cut them. There's a library that I go to that's really bad, I mean, really, really awesome. That's real quiet, where I can go and cut. I know the librarian for a long time. And so I get in there and cut all my stencils when I got a cutting board. That's where I make, because when there's no wind,
Yeah.
nothing bothering you, we'll sit there for an hour and cut like a good stack of all the things that I need. Because once you cake them up with paint, they don't stick right.
Yeah.
You have overspray, and then you have to keep touching up, and it's a lot of work. But when you get it real nice and thin, it sticks to the concrete, and then you just spray. It's
Nice.
nice. I like it. It's like
Yeah.
artwork.
I bet it's relaxing too.
It's $20 a piece. So you imagine you make five, 7 a day. It's 140, 150 bucks a day.
Yeah.
You know, if, God willing, and then you get.
Get to los mandos, yeah.
Let's go back to how your mom was reacting, like right after the
The bus accident.
the bus accident.
She was, at first she wasn't there, so I had to go run and go knock on the door. I knock on the door. She gets up. She's got my sister float in her hand, in her arms, and then she's telling me, "I telling her the bus fell." I said, "What do you mean it fell?" So we're arguing, not arguing, but I'm telling her too fast, like I'm doing now. And she's like, "Wait!" I said, "Mom, se cayó el bus, está gordo en el agua, acá en la esquina," and she freaked out. Oh, I got the other little girl. Wow, they were babies. So I'm holding one, and I get in the seat, and she gets on the driver's side. So I got both of them like this. She drives, went to the shortcut, because on tal Chaparral, the apartments, the Chaparral right here, the canal, there's a split. And that split's been there. The border patrolman, when I was running, I cut him off first before he saw that. And then, ya no me lo siguió. So I went all the way to my mom's house, got her, we had an Omega, an 82 Omega, a little white Oldsmobile, and there was a front-wheel drive, and it made these weird noises. And so we get in the car, boom, we drive through here, go this way, and there's a calichero right here. And then she's telling me, "Muta gorda," that was my sister's nickname. And I told her, she's right there on the bottom, he's here, and gorda, I scream, and my sister looked up, I go, "Mom's right here." And they're slowly canoeing people to the rafting people to the side of the calichero to safety. And so she had to wait, boom, and then had to go out there to the side or climb the
ridge.
No, they had a ladder.
Oh.
Because remember, the park wasn't there.
Yeah.
There was no opening in
There
the
was
front.
no opening to get there.
You had to go through all the back side, de para atrás del Chaparral, on the other side of 6 or something like that. There's an entrance somewhere around there. But there
Oh,
was
so you
no
had to
entrance.
go all the way around.
Yeah,
There
that
was no
thing
way
was.
to get there
Yeah, you couldn't
without
get in there.
just
You had to
jumping
go
down
get a
into-
ladder in there, and they had to get a crane to pick the bus out because the park wasn't there, so there was no entrance. It was a whole round square of caliche.
Wow.
And so they put the ladder, and they had to climb up the ladder from the fire engine, and they had there was a lot of stuff. Then some were getting rafted to the edge, and then waiting to get picked up on the ladder, and then I was already gone by then.
Wow.
And my mom was freaking out. She said, "Hey, Mom." And that's when they asked me, "Were you on the bus?" And I looked at myself, and that's when I said, "Well, so I'm out dirty." I was like, "Well, yes, sir. Yeah." Boom, está todo muroso. Y dijo, "Okay, súbete en la ambulance. Boom, we'll take you." That's when we got to the hospital. There was already kids from the bus that had already beaten me to it because I had left to go see my mom to go get her, and they were already taking kids for the hospital.
How long was that after?
What do you mean?
Like when you took off from the bus,
How long did it take you to
How
go?
long
Man,
did-
I would say a good 7-10 minutes. Telling my mom, running was like a good 5 minutes, and another 5 minutes telling my mom the story. So then another 5 minutes going back. I would say about a good 15, 12 minutes. From that time to go back, about a good 12 minutes, 12, 15 minutes. And by the time we got back, ya había todas las ambulancias, border patrol, a lot of ambulances and fire department.
so within 12 to 15 minutes
And there
of
was
the
already
accident.
somebody in there with a raft.
Wow.
When my mom looked down, there was already a dude that had jumped from the side, a volunteer from the fire department in Alton. His name was Mike. I'm not sure if his name is Mike Garcia, but he's the one that jumped in from the edge. Y se aventó con la raft, aventó la raft, y luego se aventó al agua. Y luego se metió a la raft y comenzó a sacar gente. Ese fue el primero, el de los primeros de los volunteers. Y a mí me subieron a la ambulancia y me fui. I took off.
Wow.
They took me to the, hey, you need to get checked out, you need to get checked out.
Do you remember any other maybe heroes that were there that night that
Everybody's a hero. I'm not a hero. I consider the kids heroes. The ones that were there, the ones that were more, I'm going to say, it was just weird that after everybody got up on top of the bus, how the sense of them being so mature, instead of like jumping into the water and making it more chaotic, they stood there in line and they helped. Everybody helped to try to get other people coming out. Those are the heroes, man. Those are the kids, man. Those are the ones that when you look back and then you got to dive because the other guy's telling you to dive, you're looking back at what you're leaving behind. And they were all standing there. And I was like the oldest one. And I'm telling them, I'll just stand right there. Don't get in the water. They're going to come help us. And boom, and that took off. You know, and that's how I look back at that as they're all lined up. Those are the heroes, man. Those guys were mature. They were, you know, it's just weird.
Wow. Man. Robert, do you have anything else to add?
No, I'm just here listening, absorbing it all, trying to put myself in
Yeah, because I never consider myself a hero.
in a
I just try to
situation.
do the right thing.
Yeah, that's
You
it.
know?
That's all we can do, man.
Other people put a label on you. Hey, by all means, as long as it's a good one, I'm good with it. You know, I mean, hey, thank you. You know, but I humble myself. I'm not a hero. You got to do the right thing at that moment, at that exact moment. You're there for a purpose. You know, if you live through it, you know, and you're there, and you see somebody suffering, you can't let that person suffer.
Mm-mm.
You know, I don't care how, even your enemy.
Yeah.
I couldn't see my enemy suffer, drowning in the water.
Especially when it's children.
I'd have to pick them. I'd have to pick them up and try to help, and then let God take care of His life in His own way when I'm not around. You know, be it as a male, enemy, friend, you try to help in time of need. You can't just look away. That's just not right. That's not right. It's inhumane if you did that. People that see somebody like in dire straits or dying, you know, some people laugh at them. Some people, you know, there would be people that are really, really suffering, and people take it as a joke, like he's making it up, but nobody knows. You don't know that person unless you actually see or he exposes himself.
No. But
But you can't just say, "Nambe chale," you know, and leave him there behind, and then he's really, really suffering. How are you gonna feel then? You know, and then when it's your time and you're suffering and you're out there looking or asking for help, and they walk away and they see, or they show you the same face that you showed someone else when they were asking you for something to help them, and then you're in that same position and they don't help you. That's karma. That's and
It's
you don't
out
want,
there, man, yeah.
And you don't want bad karma.
Yeah.
You got to give good karma to get it back.
You survived.
Get it back and gain knowledge, wisdom. Gain knowledge and wisdom. You know, you're going to do so much bad. Either you're going to spend the rest of your life in prison, you're going to end up dead, or you're going to learn from it. You know, I choose to learn from it. I don't want to look back no more like on my past mistakes. I want to move forward. You know, this thing helps me heal. Because nobody was there. I mean, those that were there, but nobody knows unless you're there to give a true account of what you're feeling inside.
You still carry it with you too.
Oh yeah, man. But it's good. It's a release.
Yeah,
It's a good release for
good
me.
to let it out.
And it's not bad to cry. It's not, you know, people, if you got feelings and you're sentimental and you know, if you have emotions, pues, you know, you gotta let your emotions, suéltalos, man. You know, pues, ¿de qué sirve de tenerlos y luego te mueres de coraje o te mueres de
Un infarto,
tristeza?
yeah.
I think Robert puts it very well. As sharing his story, it gives a little piece of it to everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, you,
And it opens up another perspective of somebody else's mind,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and to think and what can happen and think about life. Maybe you might change somebody's way of thinking today. You know, they might be thinking of doing something wrong, and they see the podcast and they see, you know what, you did something different. You know, you can do different, or give good advice. You know,
Alexander, you did outstanding today, man. We appreciate you coming out and hanging out with us and revisiting that day.
yes, sir. Thank you guys for having me here.
Man,
Thank you.
I can't even. I'm sitting here. I've been trying to figure out what that might have been like, and the more I think about it, the less I can do it. That had to have been one of the most horrible things that people had to witness. I talk about being helpless the night that the bridge collapsed.
Yeah.
That feeling of being helpless, that you can't break the windows, you can't pull the kids out, you can't pick the bus out.
And plus, you guys
That's
had
the
waves,
worst.
and you had
Yeah, man, that's
the current of the water in the ocean. This is in the ocean. That's
Yeah.
a little more scarier.
So
Not knowing the depth.
the only thing I can relate to is that feeling of being helpless, man, and just not being able to offer any aid. You know, if people wind up coming out on their own, then you help, and if they don't, then you know that they're under the water, you know, fading.
Don't record us.
So
Yes.
it was good to have you here, man. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming
Yes,
by, man.
thank you guys so much.
So
Thank you. This is the podcast. What is it
Podcast.
called?
Joshua Morales Podcast.
Awesome.
So before we finish off the podcast, guys, once again, with same thing as the Queen Isabel Causeway collapse, it was built by YouTube comments. So we got to actually reach out to so many people that were involved with the accident that had a different perspective from the YouTube comments that people would comment on.
Definitely.
Right.
So we would love for that to happen again. So if you know anybody, or you know that somebody was directly affected, or somebody that would come out on the podcast, you know, our goal is to tell the truest story,
From
the
different
version
angles,
of this
yeah.
story, and you know, get a overall collective, I guess, truest story of what happened that night.
And bring it to y'all, bring it to light. There's some documentaries that have been made and other podcasts that have had these. Josh and I are going to follow their lead and continue to produce this content about this event until it gets the notoriety that it deserves, you know. And after that day and after that accident, buses still to this day have safety features and mechanisms in them that were implemented because of this accident nationally. So this is a big deal to us and obviously to those who survived it. So we're going to continue to bring it to you.
Yeah, help us keep the RGV culture alive and the stories that affected a lot of the Rio Grande Valley people. I think it's super important to touch on these things, these forgotten stories, and the forgotten people and heroes. I will say that.
Thank you.
And the heroes that were involved in these things, because keeping the memory alive, I think, is really important for me to be able to use the podcast platform to be able to showcase, you know, Rio Grande Valley people.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what we do. That's what we're about. So, once again, guys, we'll see y'all next time. Stay
Peace out.
tuned. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, sir.
Of course, brother.
Thank you.